Hello, folks, and welcome to the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I'm your host, Trellis Williams, and today we got a real good show for you. We've got Coach Willis of the Muddy River Counselors as well as Coach Cliff Jenkins of the Laurel Lady Nighthawks joining us here today. So two big interviews. We're coming into the 16U tournaments, which are this weekend, Friday and Saturday, for girls and boys. So we got a lot to talk about here on the show. We got a good show for you tonight. The MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show begins right now. And thank you for joining us. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. We just passed 1,500 subscribers on our YouTube channel. We're happy about that. But if you haven't subscribed already, please do that. Also, like and share the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. So we did have some games this past week. And it was Jackson and Hattiesburg was the first matchup. 18U boys. This one was a win for Jackson, but by only 6 points, 56-50. The victors get the win there over the Hattiesburg Forerunners, and this puts the victors there very close, but I think they're going to end up with that fifth spot rather, in the conference. They same record as Macomb, but due to a head-to-head, that puts Macomb in the fourth spot. And victors are at the fifth spot in the conference. Hattiesburg falls to 3-10, but didn't really change the standings there, but 56-50, a close one. In Monroe, that game went heavily to the victors. Victors beat the Forerunners by a lot in a district game in Monroe, but this one proved that Hattiesburg is back ready to compete. 6-point game there. Victors get the win. We may see a matchup like that in the tournament, but we'll have to see. 56-50, victors win. So then we have Macomb and Laurel. This was on Tuesday night. Had 18U girls action first. 70-9 win for Laurel. Wow, 70-9. And so that's a big margin there, but you have the number one team against the sixth team in the conference. Laurel able to take over that number one spot solidly with a 9-1 conference record. Their only loss was to PCA early in the season by 1 point in conference. So Laurel, the Lady Nighthawks, able to get that win there. Then in 18U boys, Laurel able to fight hard and get a win by 16 over Macomb. They win that ball game by a score of 62-46. So this allows Laurel to firmly take over that third spot in the conference. So the final standings for 18U boys, you got the Muddy River Counselors, number 1, 14-0 in conference. Number 2, PCA, 10-2 in conference. Number 3 is Laurel with an 8-6 conference record. Then number 4 is the Macomb Gators with a 6-7 conference record. Victors with a 6-7 conference record. Then Hattiesburg 3-10, Meridian at 2-12. So that is the standings for 18U boys. For the 18U girls, we were already set up there before these last couple of games. But Laurel, number 1, 9-1. PCA, number 2, 8-2. Meridian, number 3, 6-4. Muddy River, number 4, 4-6. Hattiesburg, number 5, 3-7. And the Macomb Gators last at 0-10 in conference. So that's kind of where we are here in the standings. And so that wraps, those are the final standings here for the MSAHA regular season. So we are at the end heading into the tournament. Now tomorrow and on Saturday, we've got 16U tournaments coming up, and those are big. And kind of look at a little bit of the standings there. We don't have a graphic for it, but I will call it out right now. So looking at 16U boys, the number 1 seed is the Muddy River Counselors. This is a 6-team field. Muddy River Counselors at number 1. PCA Paladins at number 2, followed up by the Jackson Victors at number 3. Hattiesburg Forerunners at number 4. Laurel Nighthawks number 5, and Meridian Flyers at number 6. So how this tournament is set up is that you have the top team and the bottom team play each other. So 1 and 6, 2 and 5, 3 and 4. The winners go to a gold pool. The losers go to a silver pool. So we will have the Muddy River Counselors taking on the Meridian Flyers tomorrow. Then we'll have the PCA Paladins will take on the Laurel Nighthawks. And then you'll have the Jackson Victors take on the Hattiesburg Forerunners. The winners of those games will go to a gold pool. So that's what we have there for 16U boys. So 16U girls. Laurel, number 1 in 16U girls with a 9-0 conference record. Number 2 are the Muddy River Counselors, sitting at a 7-3 conference record, followed up by PCA at 4-3 in conference. Meridian, 2-7, and then Hattiesburg last at 1-5. So that means Laurel gets a bye. Laurel's they're going to be automatically in the gold pool as the number 1 seed. The other 2 winners will be in the gold pool. The 2 teams that lose will be in a silver pool and play 1 game. And so where that leaves us is you're going to have matchups between the Muddy River Counselors and the Hattiesburg Forerunners and the PCA and Meridian. Now, when you look at this, Muddy River Hattiesburg should be very interesting. Hattiesburg, most of their 16U girls season, they didn't play all their 16U girls. Most of their 18U girls team are 16U girls, and so you would expect them to go full throttle here for the tournament, and so that might make that a more interesting game than we saw in the regular season. Counselors dominated the Forerunners there in 16U girls both times this during the regular season, but we'll see what happens here and what Hattiesburg brings to the table. Then we got PCA and Meridian. That's a question with Meridian as well. They don't usually play every 16U girl that they have, but I don't know. PCA looks pretty good on the 16U girls level. Most of their players are 16U as well. So PCA, I would think, would have a very good shot at winning that ball game, but we will see. And so that's where the tournament is. And so, again, you win that first game, you go to a gold pool. You lose that first game, you go to a silver pool. And then the games after that determine where you are in terms of placement at the end of the tournament. So right now we are going to bring on Coach Cliff Jenkins. He is the head coach of the Laurel Lady Nighthawks at all age divisions for them, and they've done very well this year. They're number 1 in all girls divisions in the MSAHA. Coach Cliff, we really appreciate you joining us.
Hey, I'm glad to be here with you, Trellis. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, Coach. And so we made this, I want to start with this. We made a transition into this new tournament format. This was something that you were a proponent of as well. Just kind of talk about, I see the benefits in it. I like a situation where a lot of times you have more of a single elimination kind of outlook on it. We've had double elimination for years. Obviously, you go into pool play, it's not necessarily single elimination, but if you lose a game, you're probably not going to win the tournament now, but you do get that automatic few games that you don't get with double elimination. You might get bounced out in 2. Just talk about the benefits of that change.
Yeah, so just over the last several years, a number of our programs have been going to the NCHC, the district, or the regional tournaments. And we kind of all came back talking about how much we enjoyed the fact that it's not the double elimination. You don't if you lose a ball game, you don't end up playing 4, 5, 6 games. You end up trying to fight back through that loser's bracket. You end up exhausted if you do get back to the championship game against a team that probably skipped across the top and played 2 games the whole time. Then you've got a number of teams that they come in, they play 2 games, they're going to the house, and this format. It still classifies out your stronger teams versus your weaker teams in the play-in game, but everybody plays more games overall. Even if you lose the first game, you're still going to play 1 or 2 more, depending on, it really depends on how many teams are in the bracket, but you have the potential in some brackets to play 4 games. The other benefit of it is as the conference has grown, we've got more and more teams there, which requires more and more games in that double elimination. And so this takes some of those games away. Everybody still plays more games per program, but it doesn't take as many total games to run it, which makes it easier on programs that are trying to host it. We have limited facilities often. It gets the cost down because we're not having to pay for officiating crews for so many games. So it's just a win-win all the way across the board. Everybody plays a little more ball. cost a little bit less, not as big of a tax on the programs that are hosting it. So I hope everybody has a good experience with it. This is our first time, so it'll really be interesting to see how it plays out, how everybody feels about it.
Absolutely. Now I want to turn our attention to your basketball team, and we were just talking about it. You guys got a win by a large margin there against Macomb to round out your regular season for conference play. And Coach, 9-1 conference record, lost to PCA early in the season by 1 point. PCA's got some talent, but you guys were able to get over the hump that second time and beat them by a good margin the second time. So just kind of talk about your team. You finish third in district, which is a pretty solid mark there in that district tournament. And that's where you were seeded. So you're definitely able to fulfill that. Talk about where you see your team as being. We're talking about 18U right now. We'll get into 16U in just a second. Kind of talk about where you see your team right now.
I see us in a pretty good place right now. We came into the season, new players moving into new roles. They had some varsity experience, but really not as a whole, as a team, we didn't return just a tremendous amount of varsity game time maturity and game time experience.
Yeah.
Throughout early season, new coach, new players moving into new roles, new systems, new offenses. We sputtered a little bit in the early season, just trying to figure everything out and get people where they were supposed to be at. But mid-season, they kind of started catching their stride, and they've just been playing really, really well this last part of the season. So I feel really good about where we're at. We've matured a lot. We've played into our roles. Everybody kind of knows what they're doing and what's expected, and they're just doing a really good job right now. You always want to peak as you get close to tournament time or at tournament time, and I feel like we've done that. I feel like we're just really playing really, really well right now.
And that's definitely good to hear. And I know that was probably something that you've been thinking about, because I know in December you guys were playing really well in that part of the year right there when you guys went to Arkansas for the Tri-State Classic. And, and that time of year is a good time to be – every time of year is a good time to be doing well.
Absolutely.
But you want to keep it going up. And, it's good to see. I know that you guys probably weren't too happy with the third place just because you're right there in that semifinal game against CHA. But just talk about how a loss like that, a close loss, because you had a close win right before that against Good Samaritan. You take a close loss there to CHA. Just talk about how your team learns from situations like that.
Yeah, Good Samaritan was they were an unknown to us. We'd never seen them before. Looking at their players and their records, they had a pretty strong record coming into it. So we knew they knew how to win. We just didn't know how strong their conference was or what to expect. And man, it was a really physical matchup. They were just really, really physical. Had good shooters, really very aggressive drivers, good defense. We did manage to pull that one out. And going into the CHA game, we had played CHA in Conway, and I don't remember the exact score, but it was a double-digit win. And I don't know, we didn't execute that game as well as we wanted to. Our shooting, we were having trouble getting the shots that we wanted to get. CHA did a great job making adjustments to our offense, and we struggled with that game. We really were disappointed with the 1 point loss, and we were really shooting for making it to the championship game. And but the girls rebounded from that well. We had played Little Rock in Conway and only had a 4 point win over them. It was a head-to-head game the whole time there. I think we swapped leads a couple of times, but down here at Monroe, man, they just came into that game ready to get a little redemption from the game before, and just really that game, ran it well, and it was a good game to drive home on, to leave the tournament on. It felt good to walk away from that game having done well.
Absolutely. And another thing too is that you want to be able to figure out how to win those close games, especially like we're talking about this new tournament format. One thing about double elimination is that if you're a top team with a double elimination, those teams have to beat you twice. Whereas in a new setup, it's like really they get you on that good day. It makes a difference, and so that means you want to be able to finish those games. Now, turning our attention to your 16U team, you're coming up on a tournament right here. You guys kind of get a bye, don't play the first day, but But when you talk about your team here, you've won every 16U girls basketball game, and a lot of your 18U team is 16U, which is the case with a lot of teams in the
Yeah.
league. But you guys are the best 18U team, and that in turn makes you the best 16U team as well. So, but you are the teams you're playing against. You're talking about Muddy River, who's got a heavy 16U. You got Hattiesburg has a heavy 16U,
Yeah.
but they haven't really been playing them throughout the season.
Yeah.
PCA obviously has a heavy 16U. Just talk about that and how you're going to take to that competition here this tournament.
Man, absolutely. So that's been really weighing on my mind all week, like preparing for this, because the reality is none of us have played a 16U game to our full strength yet, because all of us have had varsity games coming behind it, and so really all the games throughout the season, I don't really know that you can put a whole lot of confidence in any team's performance in 16U through the regular season. So I expect tomorrow and Saturday, I expect the 16U games are going to be much more competitive. I think they're going to be much more contested. Teams are going to be playing a much heavier roster than what they've played throughout the season. And the cool thing about tournament time is anything can happen. That's what makes it so exciting. So we're gonna come out full strength. We're gonna do our best and see where it falls.
Absolutely, and Coach Cliff, we appreciate you joining us on the show, and good luck to you guys this weekend. And it's always good to have you on the show.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, and so folks, do want to remind you to hit that subscribe button to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. We will have some streams this weekend. We'll have to sort out the details on what we will have. We hope to have at least some championship type action there on Saturday. So definitely stay tuned. And do want to shout out to our sponsor for all our championship Saturday action here for the MSAHA. That is Vowels Marketplace. Vowels Marketplace is our sponsor, so we really appreciate them. So right now we're going to bring on Coach Willis Of the Muddy River Counselors, and he is coaching. He's coaching 2 this weekend. He's going to be coaching in the boys and in the girls for 16U. And also coaching the others as well. But we're going to talk a little bit about 16U. We got that tournament coming up. And so, Coach, we appreciate you joining us right here on the show.
Glad to be here. Glad to be. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's all good. So first question is, so going through this season, I want to start off by talking a little 18U boys.
Right.
Obviously, very good season so far, 22-1 record. And what's crazy is that you lost that one game to the Tyler Heat in the championship of district, and now you've had to sit on it for 2 weeks. But 22-1 record, falling to Tyler Heat by just a slight margin, but finishing second in district. Just talk about your team and where you see them right now.
Well, man, I got a fun team. Good, it's fun to be around the guys. I like the way they play basketball. Like they like their focus. I like their energy. And so we're just trying to win basketball games. I mean, that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to stay focused on what the truth of the matter is, and that is fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom. It's true wisdom, and understanding is to turn away from evil. All right, and so we really want to harp on those things, and then praise the Lord, get to play some basketball, and the guys. I got some quick guys with some good hands, and they can shoot the ball and run the floor. And I got a couple guys. I got 3 guys that are just they can play with absolutely anybody. And then the rest of the team is really good too. So, we're in a good place. We're in a good place with the Muddy River Counselors. And so, we got to. But like you were talking about with Coach Cliff and tournament time. Anything can happen, and it's the game of basketball, and you can have a really good team, and if you go out there and you don't perform, another team can knock you off, and that's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is too is that we're coming up on this 16U tournament right here. Kind of want to talk a little bit about this. We'll talk about both sides of it, but we're going to start off talking a little bit of girls basketball. You got 16U girls, and you're the 2 seed, which is the most favorable situation. you've ever been in terms of your girls program. The second seed in the 16U girls tournament. You're going to take on Hattiesburg first, which is a team that's like, we were talking to Coach Cliff about it, an unknown team. We have not seen them at all at their full strength on 16U. And so that'll be something that will be different. Just talk about that girls team. They were able to compete there in district, able to win 2 of their 4 games. Just kind of talk about that team.
Yeah, well, girls team, just relatively speaking, they're they've come up from years before. Program, but it's very pleasant young ladies that play hard, and now we're starting to have good spacing and movement, and girls aren't afraid to play counselor style. I mean, like if you're knowing what I'm talking about, it's we have this certain style, and the girls didn't take to it necessarily as quick as the boys. But I'm trying to lead the team in a way that we can win, and that we're having fun, and that it's entertaining. And so all those 3 things that trying to do, because I mean there's certain things that you can do to try to win that are not necessarily as fun or entertaining, but you're just really going for trying to get the win. And man, me really well. I'm not quite there. I'm not quite there. I like for the girls to be like, I'm exhilarated going out to play basketball, and so the way we play,
hey, when they're playing well, it is fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, so and they know that they got the green light to shoot, and even though they hadn't, it's not, it's not like we're getting in the gym and it's like, oh man, you're hitting 80 out of 100, you got the green light. It's like, oh man, y'all better get ready to rebound, So, we're having fun with it, and Lord willing, Trellis, we go in there and we hit every shot, and we'd be so happy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Then we turn our attention to your 16U boys. Now they're sitting number 1 seed, 11-1 conference record. 1 loss was to the Victors by 4. This broke a 41 game winning streak dating back to 2022.
Yeah.
And you're talking about something that's just ridiculous. It's a long time of not losing any 16U games. Comes to an end. It's got to come to an end at some point in time. Monkey off your back. But the Victors were able to win. They've got a good team. Now, the second time you played them, you were able to beat them by 25 points. But, hey, you get into this tournament. What are you thinking about your 16U team?
Well, my 16U group, I mean, they're a lot of them get good rotation minutes on the 18U, and then I got Luke and Isaac who actually start. So they get to play ball, and they play at practice, and when we play at practice, we play hard, and so they're going to be ready. If you sat there and compared our 18U and our 16U, you just of course got to peel back some Michael and Caleb, and so when you peel them off, you got a group of guys that can play ball. But it's different. Like it's like taking away 2 really high, like 2 nuclear bombs, if you will, and then now you're going in with a crew that really can play, but they have to adjust because they're it's a different it's just different.
And another thing, you play more to size because you got a little bit of size coming off that bench, and the younger. Some of your younger players have some size that don't really get in the 18U games as often, but they do play in 16U and even 14U. And so I know you play more to your size there in 16U as well. So it definitely is just a different look for your team.
It's a different look. It's still the counselors thing that we got going on, but the dominoes fall a little differently. And so, it's fun. They're fun. They're good. They can play. They can pass, run, defend, shoot, all that stuff. I mean, that's why they're the number one team in the 16U. But we've got to execute. We got to execute every single time. If you want to win, if you want to hoist the trophy, you got to execute every single time. So, they know what's on their plate.
Yeah, and that's another thing too with the new tournament format. One loss will derail you, like you'll lose. Double eliminations, like it would derail you, but you can win losing one game. In this, you got to make sure you win your basketball games. And a game like that Victor's game, just kind of talk about that a little bit. Definitely a game that felt like, oh wow, kind of it was a surprise, them getting that win. Even though obviously these Victor's guys been playing for years, they've been getting better. These guys have been playing together for years as well. So it wasn't like a surprise in that way, but more of a surprise that you go years without losing. You get surprised whenever you finally lose that game. Just talk about what that meant to your team in terms of just knowing you come into a tournament like this, you gotta play. You gotta play well.
Yeah. Well, it's how you play the game. So, most of the time, it's basketball. It's basketball. Yeah. So sometimes, and I've talked about this before. I think I've talked about it on your show. You go in and you play a game and you're just race car driving, running away with it, and just blowing and going like, wow, like wide open. And some people, parents or whatever that aren't as used to the high school format and all that, they're like, oh, they're just running up the score and stuff like that. It's like, no. If you don't run up the score, if you start pushing the brakes and start trying to put a stranglehold on a game when you don't have enough lead, it's like poop, 3-3-3. You know what I'm saying? And then you're down. And then you lose. Okay, yeah. And so that's what happened with the Victors. It was an interesting night that nobody really wanted to run. And so we played slow basketball. You know what I mean? And so anytime you play slow basketball, you might be able to hold the other team close and win the game, but you might hold them close and lose the game. And similar thing happened with that Tyler Heat game. Of course, it was a different game than the Jackson 16U Jackson Victors game. It was.
But you say that, but it actually was very similar to
it. Yeah. Well, whereas we kept the other team close. You know what I mean? But then we lost by 2, and so.
What I say is similar. 43-39 against the Victors, 43-41 against Tyler Heat is almost the same score. So.
Yeah.
And you're talking about you make your choice to keep the game close, but that's just a part of the game. But
yeah, and the other team has a lot to do with it too. Now I'm not saying it's all, but definitely.
And the Victors were playing inspired basketball that night on all age groups.
Yeah, the way they end up hitting. I think Asa hit an and 1 3-pointer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he hit one to bring the game back, and they hit an and 1 3.
Yeah, so he really had a good burst right there at the end of the game, man. They were hyped up, man. Jim was erupting. Yeah. And I was over there going,
yeah, that's right.
That's what you want, right? When you're coaching a team, you want the other coach over there going,
That's exactly what you're going for. All right. Well, hey, thank you for joining us. Coach Willis of the Muddy River Counselors joining us right here.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me.
For sure. And folks, we appreciate you joining us. So we got 16U tournaments coming up, girls and boys coming up on tomorrow. So Friday and Saturday, tomorrow and Saturday. And we plan on doing some streaming here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel. We'll see what we can get tomorrow, but then on Saturday, Laura Willing will get some good action for some championship type ball games. But we really do appreciate you joining us right here. Hit that subscribe button. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. And until next week, we out.